And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Did anyone tell you to get on the couch? Now, you know I did not wipe you down after you got back inside. This is ridiculous. I know he has stepped in his pee. Before I took him out, I was at the pool. I took him out. And then we came back upstairs, and I know for a fact he stepped in his pee. He stepped in something. Ridiculous dog. Been sitting in his crate all day, lazy son of a gun. Just kidding. Episode 296, this is Chad White. Welcome back. I'm recording every podcast in a row because I did not get a chance to do anything this week. And you know what I chose to do? It's before all of this, I sit down for 2 hours to record. And I went to go see a movie. And I went to the pool, as I previously stated. Oh, what a great, lovely Friday it's been. I went, typically, to the gym. Worked out for 3 hours. In 6 minutes, I think. I talked for like 20, so it's fine. I talked for like 20. And then, I came back home. Took him out. Took the dog out. Fed both the dog and the cat. But also I took him on a run, so that I could get him a little bit tired. Grocery shopping. Then I came back home. My movie started at 11 o'clock. I came back home at 10:56. I had 4 minutes. You have 20 minutes to get to get there before all the trailers end. I had 24 minutes to get there. I came back home and then I had to dump the groceries. And I take Maverick out, put him in his crate. I have right now my back tire on my bike is going flat after every use. And I had to pump air into it. By the time I left here, it was 11:14, I think. I got there in record time. It takes me 10 minutes typically, if no one's on the belt line messing about here in Atlanta. It takes me typically 10 to 11 minutes of biking to get there. I got there at 11:23 because I just missed the crossing light. So I got there 11:23. Sat the light for 3 minutes. Sat the light for 3 minutes, and then locked my bike up. And then with A-List, you have to show them your ID and all this stuff. So I pull out my phone beforehand. Oh, also I made lunch. So I made lunch and I brought it. That's why I was a little bit later too. Walked in. At the exact moment, the Sony logo popped up on screen, and I was so elated. I was so excited. At 11:24 was when I got in there, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I am so lucky." I knew it was going to be a little bit more than 20 minutes, but I always give myself 20 minutes. I don't want to see the trailers. If I can see the trailers at home, then I don't want to see the trailers. This is why I like to go to the movies during the day at 11 a.m. The movie finished. First of all, I gotta tell you, there's two things that stood out to me at watching the fourth Bad Boys movie starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. One, Michael Bay gave himself a cameo, obviously, and it was a very jarring cameo. It was full screen, close up, him in a car, and if you were somebody who did not know who A, Michael Bay was, and B, that a director would give themselves a cameo in their movie, or anybody making a movie give themselves a cameo in their movie, then you'd be like, why did they focus on this man for so long? When it happens, you'll know. If you watch Bad Boys 4, you'll know. Second, I hate, and I think this is reductive to say this, that movie's good. There's a point towards the end. Or wait, is Bad Boys 4 good? Oh my gosh, Bad Boy 4 is good. Bad Boy 4 is good. Oh man, I like all the Bad Boy movies. There you go. That's something about me. I think they're fun and interesting. In the same token, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, I just rewatched for, however manyth time I watched that again this week. And they both scratch separate itches, but man, because they're both action movies and they both star charismatic Scientologists. But man, I just enjoy both of those movies. Martin Lawrence is not a Scientologist, so read into that as you will. Any Hoosers, that's what I did. Then I went to the pool, read a little bit more of Surrender by Bono, the U2/Bono biography. And now we're here talking about whatever stories I've got lined up. This one comes from IGN, written by Wesley Yin-Poole. Embracer boss moles increasing the price of video games beyond $70. You'll remember a couple of years ago with the launch of the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Games were basically, the prices of games were risen to $70 because a lot more goes into making video games now, which is true. There's a lot more manpower, people power, I guess. There's a lot more people power in games, and there's a lot more crunch, and people aren't getting paid for what they're doing. And it's not because of game prices; it's because of the publishers and the developers not giving enough money and not giving enough due, and just making a lot of bad decisions when it comes to how people should be managed. You shouldn't, if a game's going to be late, let the game be late. Don't make people work 12-hour days. That's stupid. Same thing for movies and TV shows. You don't need all that. It can be good regardless. Just let it be late. And if you mess up your budget and your scheduling, then that's on you. Prior to that, games were risen to $60 when Xbox One and PS4 were released, if I remember correctly. So we've seen these increases. Of course, games in the 80s and 90s used to be between $70 and $100. But I think times have changed. Now we have all these indie games. Now we have, as I read a quote from this Embracer representative, games that last 150 hours. But it should be, I hit the mic before I say something important. It should not, I can spend I've spent Persona 5 Royal. I've spent on a Persona 5 Royal, I spent 120 hours to get to this end game. And yes, while I did wait to get that game on sale, I would have been happy to pay $70, but that doesn't mean that a game is quote unquote worth that much. I could for let's say what is it called? Immortals of Avium. That game released late last year for $70. It's a 12-hour game or 15-hour game at most, first-person shooter style game with magic, released by EA, and it came out to mid-size reviews, 7s all around the board. Didn't sell very well. It went on sale on both Xbox and on PlayStation for $5 one day. Only a couple of months after it came out, and now it's on Xbox Game Pass, and now you can also get it for free, I think, on PS5. So worth is different for everybody. Some people want to buy stuff day one. Gay one. Gay one. I've been here since Gay one. Where have you been? I'm an ally. I wasn't doing a voice. I wasn't doing a gay voice. I thought about it, but I did not. Here's what Lars Wingefors, who has laid off thousands of staff, shut multiple studios, and sold off subsidiaries in the last financial year, here's what he told GI.biz. I'm not saying you can't increase the price, but the reality is no one has tried it. If you create an enormous role-playing game, for example, with 100 or 150 hours of gameplay, very polished and a unique experience, would the consumer be willing to pay more? If they would have more products potentially coming to market, but no one tried it. That means here I think here's the thing. Here's the overall trend. People are playing games like Call of Duty and Fortnite and Roblox and other games between their phones, between their computers, between the consoles. And these are all live service games, and they're giving their money to live service games. And unfortunately, these single player games like Uncharted and hold on, let me choose. Let me choose something that didn't do too well. Let's go back to Immortals of Avium. Like Immortals of Avium and others. They didn't do too well, or they're not doing as well as expected. Look at, I'll talk about a game in a second that didn't do well, even though it was a live service game, but because people expected it to be better than what it was. But a lot of these single player games, people buy these games and then they finish it and then that's it. Companies can't make any more money off of that. So that kind of harkens back to the days of the PS2 and the Xbox and the pre-DLC days. They want to be able to not gouge. They want to be able to get more money, these developers, these publishers, over and over again because of us, the consumer, because we keep paying for that. Why does Pokemon Go have a $5 pack of balls, of 10 balls? Because people will pay for it, 20 balls, I don't know. Because people will pay for it. We've all fallen prey to it. And the data shows that people do favor Roblox, Fortnite, Call of Duty over and over again. How did the new Alan Wake do? The Alan Wake 2. How did Alan Wake 2 do? Because we hear less and less about that. People can say they love it and they bought it, but that's it. It's only going to get a new spike if it pops up on Game Pass or if it pops up in a Steam sale or if it's on PlayStation Plus. Or if they do an update that has something so significant that it brings people back. Look at No Man's Sky. Even though that's an online game, that's not something you can continually just pay money for. However, they update it periodically, like every quarter now, and it feels as though there's the game offers more. And now if Nooman Sky, if Nooman Sky had some type of live service element, which please God, I hope I'm not speaking that to universe, but if it did, like you could buy starships or you could pay to visit a planet, which would be bad, but that would be something that would be done if this game was made by somebody else, and not Playground Games or whatever their name is. Good Man Gaming. I don't know what it's called. I can see it in my head. I can see the logo in my head. Okay, who does No Man's Sky? God, I feel bad. No Man's Sky was created by Hello Games. But if that game had a live service element, then it's possible with all these updates they'd be making money hand over fist. Now this comes from The Verge, written by Emma Roth. Suicide Squad left a $200 million hole in Warner Bros. Discovery's video game division. We heard this year that Warner Bros. Discovery is only going to be doing live service games. Gone are the days of Batman Arkham games and the Mad Max game. I think that was Warner Bros. Gone are those days. The last game we got from them that is single player was Hogwarts Legacy. And even though that sold really, really well, they saw games like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. And even though those games did not do well at all, they see that live service games can make money. Just because they can doesn't mean they will. Oh my God, Kill the Justice League came out in February. Ugh. A new report from Bloomberg details some of the studio struggles behind the scenes, including inexperience with the multiplayer genre and a, quote, constantly changing vision. Now, Rocksteady is owned by Warner Bros. Discovery, and they started making the Suicide Squad game in 2016. People were excited. Everyone was excited. I was excited. It's gonna be like Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, Batman Arkham Knight, even Batman Origins, Arkham Origins, which is not developed by Rocksteady. But it's still a decent single-player superhero Batman game. Rocksteady's leaders kept changing their ideas for the game, turning their focus from melee combat to heavy gunplay, which was bad. The studio struggled with making its battles, levels, and bosses feel less repetitive. One of the biggest issues for live service titles where players are asked to retread large parts of the game. Look at Marvel's Avengers, which was truly a game I could not get through. Even though I wanted to see the story through, I could not get through that game. Now, Marvel Spider-Man 2, which I purchased last week, I think I'm like 4 or 5 hours in, and I don't want to put it down. It feels like Batman Arkham City in that it just keeps pushing me towards the story, and I want to keep experiencing the story. Whereas for Gotham Knights, I bought that game, bought it on Steam, on sale. Calm down. $12. I have it on, actually I bought it through Fnatic, it doesn't matter. But I have it on Steam. I played it a little bit on the Steam Deck. And then I also have it on, it's on Game Pass. And I started up on both at roughly the same time. I have no drive to go back to that game. Because I don't want, it just doesn't feel good. And I know I'm going to have to, and I know exactly, I had to do some research, which I try not to do on video games. But I definitely had to do some research on how far in until I could get certain things. And it would take hours. And I just don't want to do that with that game. Video games are tough, are big and complex and expansive. And if you do them right, then people will love you for it and come back and play. Let me go back to Alan Wake. Alan Wake was a sleeper hit. People loved that game, and no one would stop talking about it. And even though it came out a generation ago, they remade it, and that remaster did, I think it did decently well, but it was good enough for it to have a second go around, and even that game did decently well. Same thing for Control, which was made by the people who made Quantum Break. You can do single player games. You just have to know that it's not going to be a constant cash cow like some phone game or Roblox. Even not Rocksteady, even Take-Two had to learn that with GTA 5, it took an online element in order for it to be as big as it is, because people kept coming back to do the online stuff. But not everybody wants to do that. A lot of people just want to do single player stuff. And it's unfortunate that we're going down this road. And the next Hogwarts Legacy title will probably have live service elements, which means you'll see people running around Hogwarts doing stuff with you. Which is not my bag. And I understand a lot of people like that stuff, but that's just not for me. And finally, this comes from the New York Times. This is going to be so much. Written by Katie Robertson and Benjamin Mullen, Washington Post CEO promised interview for ignoring scandal, NPR reporter says. I'm also going to point to the NPR story. This comes from David Folkenfilk, whom I've discussed before. Washington Post CEO tried to kill a story about himself. It wasn't the first time. So, thanks to these two stories, this is what happened. In the past week, it's been learned that Will Lewis, the chief executive of the Washington Post, repeatedly offered, this comes from Katie Robinson and Benjamin Mullen at New York Times, an exclusive interview to an NPR reporter, if the reporter agreed to not write about the allegations against Mr. Lewis in a phone hacking scandal in Britain, according to an account by that reporter on Thursday. I'm back with David's article at NPR. According to several people at the newspaper, then executive editor Sally Busby emerged rattled from both discussions in March and in May in regards to the British court proceedings involving CEO and publisher Will Lewis. That his efforts, which were first reported by the New York Times, and then a second one reported by the Post in May, which was thorough and detailed, ran days before Lewis announced his priorities for the paper, which is currently financially troubled. I urge you to read both of these pieces. It's very interesting to see how this guy is trying to the Lewis guy. What's his name? Because I was not paying attention. But Will Lewis, how he tries to use his powers and try to go around David and convince him, hey, I've got this other stuff for you. If this doesn't help, of course he denies all wrongdoing. Of course. The phone hacking scandal is in regards to. Sorry, I lost exactly where I was. He was accused in court filings of helping to cover up illegal phone hacking at British publications owned by Rupert Murdoch more than a decade ago. In May, a case brought by Prince Harry and others, a judge filed that the plaintiffs could add Mr. Lewis's name to a list of executives they argued were involved in a plan to conceal evidence of hacking at the newspapers. Now, this all comes on the heels that Sally Busby resigned as executive editor of WaPo this past weekend, in the weekend, this past Sunday, and that Matt Murray, a former top editor at the Wall Street Journal, would be her temporary replacement. Now, apparently, according to the Raps, Ross A. Lincoln, Washington. This headline says Washington Post CEO calls reporter who exposed quid pro quo after offer, quote, an activist and not a journalist. He fired back with his own allegations saying that this is incorrect. But obviously this is that is what somebody will say when they're denying over and over again when something is true, when even the courts say, hey, you can go ahead and add this person to your lawsuit, Prince Harry, and as well as other people. According to the report, Lewis made statements similar to the dismissal of NPR's reporting, telling Busby the story, quote, did not merit coverage, and angrily accusing her of a lapse in judgment after she refused to budge. He continues to deny everything. This is another point in time when somebody who is an executive at a media source has its top power and everything is being pointed in their direction, and they're trying to use that power to say, hey, I did not do anything wrong. But the fact of the matter is there are facts pointing to this person saying that Will Lewis is in fact more or less a dirty cop, in the sense that he's trying to cover his own hide as well as his former bosses. Because if this were untrue, we would have, even though Rupert Murdoch is now celebrating his 5th wedding, we would have Rupert Murdoch come out and say, hey, this guy has nothing to do with this, but he's quiet right now. So this Will Lewis is looking guilty. I was going to say obviously, but allegedly. He's looking guilty. And it's a terrible situation for him when this reporting and the court orders are true. Allegedly. if he's in this position, he needs to clear it up instead of deny it and say, if he's presented with facts, then he needs to come out and say, I have these facts. If you're embroiled in a phone hacking scandal, prove that you're not. Or if people say you are, then prove that you're not. I don't know. I don't like this guy, and I don't like how he's bouncing around. And also offering somebody, hey, cover this up. This is the second time I think David's written about a cover up of sorts for in his time at NPR. At least that I can remember. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where there are just innumerable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities. Got comedians, musicians, producers, directors, actors, what have you. If you want to see a video version of this podcast, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can also see video versions of the other podcasts, LinkedIn Logs, and which is the Jobs podcast, and Late Night Lately, which is the late night show. You can also, again, cpluscomedy.com is where you can find everything. You can subscribe to those podcasts where we get your podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at @cpluscomedy. Follow me on those platforms at Chad Black White. And, maybe that's it. Okay, I'm done.